Hello everyone and welcome to yet another recreation programming session with Mr. Azozu. So some time ago we did a session where we looked into Ninja, build tool Ninja. And it's sort of like a make-like build tool, right? So where you can define targets and you can define dependencies between targets and stuff like that. And it's supposed to be like faster make. So recently I found some projects that I would like to look into on the stream, but they're using Meson, right? So which is a higher level build tool, kind of similar to CMake, right? So, but I heard it uses Ninja like below, right? So it basically, I suppose, this is my hypothesis, I haven't looked into that build tool yet at all, right? So I see it for the first time. I suppose it takes the description of the project and generates something similar to Ninja file or Make file, which you can then run through Ninja or Make and just actually build your entire thing, right? So this is a very common theme with all of the build tools for such languages as C, C++, apparently D, Fortran, it supports Rust. That's very interesting. It's just like doesn't Rust has its own like a packager build tool cargo? Like why the fuck you support Rust? Like are you okay? Like what? And also Java has its own like a build system. It actually has several build systems like a Maven, Gradle. Like what why are you stepping on all of these weird territories, Meson? I don't even know how to properly pronounce that. I checked the Google Translate, but I already forgot how to pronounce it. I'm gonna call it Meson. Right, so it's already. To be fair, I respect the audacity of stepping into somebody else's territory. I respect that. I kind of really like that. So, personally, I wouldn't use Meson for my personal projects, right? Because I don't like this philosophy, and you guys know that. People who know, who watch me regularly, you guys know that I don't like this philosophy that you need to have, builders upon builders, generators upon generators just to build some C code. I'm actually kind of against this entire idea. I believe that a project written in a particular language has to be built with only the compiler of that language. I believe so. Otherwise, it becomes such a scope creep. Right, so you have a compiler in C, right? So you want to build a bunch of files, but then you feel like it becomes kind of slow, so you don't want to rebuild certain files and you invent make. Okay, then you realize that one make file is not enough and you want to kind of have different make files depending on the configuration of the system you have, and you have a generator of make files. And this is how you like blow up the scope of just a very simple task of building, just a project, right? So you end up with actually several languages, right? So you have your main primary language for writing a project, then you have a language for describing dependency between the translation units, and you have another language for describing generators for these dependencies. It's just like a shit ton of different languages, and the majority of them are pretty crappy. They're not even statically typed, statically checked, or anything like that. You end up with a mess, right? I really like approach that Jai is going for, where you have such a powerful meta-programming that you can build an entire project in itself, right? So also Zig is following this kind of idea. I wonder where it get that idea from. I don't know. It's kind of an interesting idea. And I personally believe that that's going to be the future of like system programming languages. You're not going to have these generators upon generators upon generators. You're going to have just a very powerful compiler with powerful meta-programming, and that compiler is going to be doing everything at compile time, right? So that's what I believe is going to be the future. But today we're going to be looking into Meson because we're not living in the future yet, right? So we're living in reality. And in reality, we have some projects that still use kind of an outdated mental model of building this kind of stuff. But eventually we'll get there. Eventually we're going to have a bright future. But right now we're living in a dark present, right? Okay, so let's take a look at Meson. Meson. So do I even have Meson? Which Meson? I do in fact have Meson. So we recently learned that this entire build system is written in Python. C++ build system written in Python. But anyway, so is it really? It is in fact a Python script. Look at that shit. This is literally fucking Python script. Motherfuckers took a toy scripting language and they're using a toy scripting language to build serious system language in which such things as load balancers and operating systems are written. Anyways, let's not focus on that. Let's not try to think about it too deep. Okay, so let me actually, let's try to do a hello world. All right, so I'm going to just make a Meson hello, right? So Meson hello. So I want to just create a hello world in C and build it with Meson. I'm not reading any documentation or anything like that because I want to, you know, see how self-discoverable, self-descriptive the tool itself is. So let's actually go and maybe just, you know, write up a simple hello world. So this is going to be something like that. So here we go. And then I'm going to do a printf hello world. I'm not gonna even check for compilation errors or anything like that. Maybe I'm gonna leave a compilation errors. Maybe I'm gonna leave a semicolon, and then we'll discover this semicolon by building this project, right, and stuff like that. And then we're gonna fix it. So I'm gonna intentionally leave this thing as it is. Okay. So if I try to do Meson, so what does it say? Must specify at least one directory name. That's very interesting. So running the setup command Meson options instead of Meson setup is ambiguous and deprecated. At least one. Okay, so first of all, you have to say Meson setup instead of Meson because that's too confusing for poor Meson. Okay, Meson setup. Meson setup must specify at least one directory name. What is directory name? I suppose this is going to be the build directory. Right, so let's specify build. So this is going to be my assumption because this is kind of a common theme in CMake. When you're running CMake, you're supposed to specify the build folder, right? So you're supposed to specify build folder, and that's actually not build folder, but folder where CMake list is located, but you're supposed to be in the build folder. But anyway, so maybe Meson is kind of different. So let's actually do setup build. Neither source, so I probably have to specify, so neither source directory build nor build directory contains build file Meson. Okay, so I probably have to first create build. Right, so yeah, let's start over. I think it is like CMake, right? And what I have to do is set up this. Actually, yeah, this. There we go. Yeah, and it didn't work because it wants to have Meson build. Okay. So the next step is going to be create Meson build in the root. There you go. Right. So we have a you know, hello world, Meson build, empty Meson build, then the build folder, and we're gonna go into the build folder and we're gonna do setup. Right, this source code. Okay, this is cool. So what do we have in here? So source dir is that, build dir is that, build type native build. I really appreciate that it actually printed all of that information. So this is very useful. So to not cause any confusion which folder is considered which, I really appreciate that. And we got an error, no statement in code. I have no idea what the fuck this error even means. Thank you so much. So we also have a full log in this file. Right, so let's take a look at this file. What does it say? It just repeats whatever was printed in this standard output. Thank you very much. Right. And at that point, we have nowhere to go. So yeah, at this point, the self-discoverability of the tool shuts down completely, right? So, and you guys know what I mean by self-discoverability, right? So essentially, I just run the tool as is without reading documentation, just run the thing. It errors out, but in the error, it kind of gives you the clues what's wrong, so then you can fix that. And by following these clues of errors, you can actually arrive on something working, and I greatly respect the tools that do that. Right, because it's kind of like a similar to game design, like tutorials in games, right? So you can have bad tutorials that are kind of annoying and force you to read like manuals and shit like that, or you can have a good tutorials that feel like you just playing the game and discovering how to play the game instead of like teaching you how to play the game. So I really like the tools that let you discover yourself how to use the tools. You guys know what I'm talking about? Right? So it would be kind of cool if it was like that. But I mean, not everybody thinks about it, and definitely not Meson developers. Or you have game with its own wiki. Yeah. Like Factory, yeah, like Factory. It's interesting how like only game developers apply these kind of principles in games, but I personally believe these principles are applicable anywhere. Right, so who said you can't do the same principles, literally the same principles, in just like regular tools? I think you could. I think you actually could. Natural feeling learning curve, yeah, exactly. Okay, so, well, I mean, we have a couple of clues that we can put in there, right? So, Meson info, Meson logs, Meson private. Okay, so I kind of want to open that in Emacs, right? So then just want to explore these folders. So Meson hello. So we also have git ignore. So are you telling me this is auto-generated by Meson? If you change or delete it, it won't be recreated. Oh, so that's very interesting. And it git ignores everything within that folder. So that means Meson actually expects you to commit build folder as an empty folder in your repo, either Git or Mercurial, because HG is Mercurial. Okay, that's very interesting. So it expects you to have a build. So here's the info, which is empty. Here's the logs. It contains the logs that are not particularly useful, and some private stuff. It has some sort of a log file. Okay, so maybe it just like logs that file when you run this tool while it's running. So if you run the second instance of Meson, it actually detects that it's the second instance, so there will be no race conditions or anything like that. Maybe that's what it's for, right? So, but I suppose you're not supposed to even look into these kind of things, right? So smarter people than you figured it all out. Just you know, believe in magic. Believe in magic. All of these magical tools and stuff like that. Okay, so what if I put some shit in here, right? Is it going to say anything interesting to me? Right, so I'm gonna do setup. Invalid source tree, first statement must be a call to... That is fucking poggers. Okay, call to a project. So you could have... Bro, you could have said that on empty file. In all honesty, you could have just said that on empty file. Why don't you just say that on empty file? No statements in code. Okay, but maybe you can consider no statement in code as the clue to add some shit into the file, so then you can continue following the clues and realize that the first thing has to be project. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, so the first thing is supposed to be project. This is what we figured. And look, we're figuring this all out without reading documentation at all. Right. We don't read anything. We're just following the clues and just figuring it out. And it's fun. It's more fun than reading some boring ass stinky documentation. I think learning has to be interactive. Learning always has to be a game. It's a quest. Exactly. It has to be fun. It has to be fun. That's why everybody hates modern education, because it's not fun. This shit is fun. Right. Okay, so let's take a look. So project takes at least one argument but got 0. Okay, so what if I put your mom as an argument into project? So your mom is my project. Unknown variable, your mom. Okay, so maybe I can put some like 69, project 69. Argument project 1, okay, so this one is interesting. Project 1 was of type int but should be in str. All right, thank you so much. So that means I can say that your mom is this. Okay, so double quotes are not supported. Use sing. I really appreciate that you told me that I'm not supposed to use them. Okay, well, let's replace that. Okay, so project version is undefined. So x86-64 host machine. Is that enough? Did that build anything? Okay, it created build Ninja. So I forgot how to use Ninja. Does anybody remember? Can I just do Ninja? No work to do. Right, so build Ninja, and I suppose it doesn't really do anything. Okay, so at this point, discoverability of this entire thing has plummeted to 0, because we don't really know what the fuck we have to do. Right, Meson directory already configured. Just run your build command and Meson will regenerate as necessary. For example, Ninja. Okay, that's very interesting. So if build failure persists, run Meson setup wife wipe, to rebuild from scratch using the same option as past configure, blah blah blah. Okay, so I really like how user-friendly it is. It actually explains you everything. Grab your mom in build. Okay, so we can do grab your mom. So, and what did we get in here? So I probably want to actually do that from Emacs. Grab your mom. All right, so this is a project file for project your mom. Okay, so there is this stuff, and yeah, so there is really no your mom in build.ninja. So, and there's also no main.c. So I presume it's kind of similar. It's probably kind of similar to CMake, where I have to say what kind of executables I have and what kind of source codes I'm going to have in there. All right, so I wonder if is there something like maybe help? Ooh, Meson help. Ooh, okay, so we got this kind of stuff. Setup, you can set up, already set it up, configure, change configuration options, generate release archive, install the project, introspect, test, wrap, compile the project. So I don't even have to run Ninja. Okay, so I don't even have to run Ninja directly. I can run it through Meson. That's pretty cool. So there's also dev environment. I don't know if you can see that, but there's an interesting command called dev-env, which is it's kind of difficult. Run commands in a developer environment. I don't really know what that means. Okay. So if I run Meson build help like this, is it going to do anything? All right. Just run you. Okay, so maybe reconfigure. All right, unknown function help. All right, so I was postponing that for a long time, but I think there is no way around that. We have to read the fucking stinky documentation. We have to fucking read it. We have to read it. So we can't really find any clue on how to configure specifically executable. Meson by itself never fucking told us, so it doesn't respect fun way of learning things. It wants us to use a boring, stinky way of learning things by reading documentation. Sad. Absolutely sad. So because of that, this thing is not gonna get 10 out of 10. What does Meson init do? I don't fucking know. Let's actually see. So help Meson init. So it doesn't create new project. Okay, so can I do help init? Help init. So source file default all to recognized. Okay. Ooh. You're supposed to specify source files. That's pretty poggers, meine Freunde. Okay, what if we remove everything in here, Meson build and build? Because I don't want to read a stinky fucking documentation. Fuck that, Scheiße, meine Freunde. Fuck that. Right, so what if I say Meson init main.c? Cool shit. Okay. So it created like an executable and stuff like that. And I suppose, there we go. We got an actual Meson build with an all right. That's pretty cool. That's pretty fucking cool. And we even have some clues on what kind of parameters you can have in projects and stuff like that. So apparently these are sort of like KW-args. Is that what they call in Python? Right, so because Meson is written in Python, but this is not exactly Python. It's sort of like a Python-ish language, right, because this is definitely not Python. This is not how you write Python. And Python allows you both single quotes and double quotes. This thing only requires you single quotes. So this is probably their custom language. Right. Okay, so this is how you do it. I don't like that they called it Meson hello, but I suppose they just use the name of the folder we're in. Fair enough. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to the build. I'm gonna do Meson setup ... All right. Target names starting with Meson and without a file extensions are reserved for Meson internal. Bro, why didn't you tell me that on the generation step? Do the commands in Meson company that responsible for Meson init and Meson setup not communicate? Do you guys have like a common, like a scram between two teams? Like these two teams do not communicate with each other. What the fuck is going on in here? I'm disappointed. Billion-dollar company. Who developed Meson, by the way? Who developed Meson? Is that like a open source thing, or is that developed by a huge company or something like that? Who's the developer? I'm actually kind of curious. I mean, build tool. It's kind of a mystery. It also has a pretty cool logo and shit like that. So if we take a look at the license of this thing, Meson. What's the Apache? Fapache. Okay, so do you have a copyright? Oh, copyright. All right. Oh, I don't even know. Nay. So Meson Wiki. Let's take a look at Meson Wiki. The developer. Meson Build. Fucking. So. Developer. Oh, it's a single person. So I don't even know who that is, but yeah. So developed by a single person, it's not by a company. So the Meson language is strongly typed, such that build types like library, executable, string, and lists thereof are not interchangeable. Okay, that's pretty cool. Right, so the build system, the build language itself, at least more or less decent. Not like CMake or anything like that, but yeah. Anyways, so what we have to do in here, is to rename this entire shit, right? So let's just call it hello, right? So let's just call it hello. And I'm going to try to regenerate it one more time. I'm going to give it another chance. Meson init main C. There we go. So we got that. So all of the names are correct in here. I do appreciate that. So I'm going to create a build folder and I'm going to do Meson setup ... and it generated everything, right? So it generated the build ninja, right? So this is hello and stuff like that. And now can I just do compile, Meson compile? Okay. And we didn't even spend 3 hours debugging to find this error, because the compiler instantly told us where it is located. It instantly told us. Isn't that boggers? Look at that. We successfully built a hello world. A hello mother flippin' world. Hello mother flippin' world. Hello mother flippin' world. So let me see. So where is the hello? Okay, so here is the hello. And if I run it, so here's the hello. So I think I forgot a very interesting, very important thing I would even say is it's the new line in here. So then I can do Meson compile and recompile everything. So it also auto-generates this entire thing, right? So that means that I can simply now maybe factor out this into a separate function, right? Let's actually have several translation units in here. Let's create a hello translation unit, right? So let's do inclusion guards, right? So hello.h, and we're gonna define this entire thing, and we're gonna do end if like that, and let's create the function hello like this. So this is gonna be just like a declaration of this entire thing, and we're going to include this entire stuff in here, hello.h. And we're going to create hello.c, and we're going to obviously include hello.h. And in here, we're going to implement it like that. Yeah, so I'm going to copy it in here, and here I'm going to just call hello. So interestingly, do I have to add any changes to the build tool? I feel like I do have to add any changes. Right, so if I just do that, yeah, it doesn't link it properly. So what I probably have to do, I have to literally just do something like that, hello.c. All right, so here's the hello.c. And then, by the way, can I just do compile but build? So current directory is not a Meson directory. Okay, so apparently I have to go into that folder and just do compile. Okay, so now here it wants me to include stdio, and everything is built automatically. So that's pretty interesting. I wonder, how did it do the dependency? Did it generate dependencies correctly? I'm gonna assume that it did in fact generate dependencies correctly. So let's actually find, so you can do build ninja, regenerate build. Oh, it's automatically regenerates things and stuff like that. So, oh, it doesn't even do any of the work itself, right? So because I don't see it calling to the compilers or anything like that. That's actually interesting. Right, so if I just do that, so there's a clean and build ninja, if it's just the build, I don't even know how it works. Build test, build phony. So maybe just a phony. Yeah, I don't fucking know. So hello, do you have build hello? Nah. Right, so it probably calls back to Meson to do all of the dirty work and stuff like that, which is kind of weird. Like if this is something that I already noticed in CMake as well, is that if make files call back to CMake anyway, why the fuck are you using make files? You're already kind of doing a lot of work yourself. Just do the whole thing then at this point. Like, why are you using make files? Can anybody explain me what's up with all of these like build tool generators? It's just like why? Is that for the sake of compatibility with some like build system which require you to have make files, but my Unix way, distributed builds, so you don't have to type the C? Right. I mean, it's just like at this point they can have their own built-in make file system which does incremental builds and stuff like that because they're doing their own thing anyway. Like, why this additional thing, right? Why depend on that additional thing? That's effort. Okay. It's bizarre. Like, you're doing all of the job and it's just like for that specific thing, for incremental builds, like, okay, let's outsource it to a separate thing. CMake is truly insane to me, just like Meson, I suppose, but they're kind of similar in like for me, honestly, right? So because they're following basically the same ideology, right, of these two-step build systems, which are written in separate languages and stuff like that, and it's insanity, honestly, it's insanity. But anyway, so that's the reality we live in. That's the reality we live in. Okay, cool. Can I do something more advanced with this kind of Shai Tsung? Right. So, for example, let's actually put that in a Git repo. Right. So let's try to consider like real world scenarios. Right. So I'm going to do Git init. There we go. And I suppose if I try to add all of that. Okay, this one is really interesting. Look at that. And automatically ignored build. Huh. If you have a folder with git init and you ignore everything, that also includes ignoring the folder itself. So by just having this git ignore here, it self-ignore. That is a very interesting way. Oh, git simply doesn't push empty folders. Okay, so but yeah, but it just automatically ignores the whole folder then. That's a very interesting way to git ignore folder. Right, because the way I usually git ignore a folder, I do that outside of the folder. That's a very interesting thing. I usually git ignore build folder outside from the build folder, from the outside by doing something like a git ignore, right? So build / and that's how we ignore it. This one ignores it from within the folder by generating always these git ignores. This is clever. I never thought about it. Actually, this is a very clever way to git ignore build folder. Git ignore also ignored itself. Yeah, this is clever. That's actually funny. Like, I never thought about it. Okay, so and it's just like it's the Meson who's actively like git ignoring them for you. You don't have to think about it. So it works with, yeah. This is smart. Damn. I really like that. That's actually kind of cool. I really like that. Didn't expect it, honestly. I didn't expect it. Okay, so we're learning things. We're learning something new. That's very interesting. But when you commit git ignore in that folder to commit folder also, you can't even stage that folder. That's the thing. Since it's git ignored, you can't even stage it. You see, like here's the untracked file. I can't stage. There's nothing to stage in here, so I won't be able to even stage it. Right. Implement for nob.h. I think I can kind of implement it, but for nob.h. So how do I work with nob.h actually? Let me see. So I have an old nob.h in here. Let me fetch the latest thing, because within nob.h I have pretty cool in there. Right, so let me merge the latest thing. So I started to do like a Jai thing with how-tos and stuff like that, right? You know how in Jai there is a folder how-to, and it's a bunch of like a lot of different tutorials on how to use this entire thing. I kind of like this idea, so I stole it from John, so I'm going to be doing that for Nob, right? So there's a how-to, and here I have a how-to stage, right? So essentially the idea here is that sometimes build become complex and you want to have configuration for the build step, right? So because of that, you organize two-step builds, right? So the first step is this one, first stage, which configures the second stage, which is called nob configured, and then runs that second stage, right? So you have executables that configure another executables, and so on and so forth. One of the things it does, it creates the build folder for you automatically, right? So as you can see, create build folder. I might as well also create .gitignore. Right, so as of right now, I just have a git ignore build slash, right? I can just make it to generate that git ignore for me. That is very smart. I think I'm gonna actually steal that idea as well. So I already do not regret looking into Meson, right? So because I already have some ideas to steal from it. So I really like that. Okay, so let's commit this entire shit, right? So this is gonna be ready. Ready, set, go. Let's fucking go. And one of the common things that you want to do with your build system is to sort of like embed git hash. So that's the real question. How the fuck do you embed a git hash? So usually the way you do that is by running an external command. And this is something that I actually did for, I think, C3 compiler at some point, right? So C3, it has git hash CMake, right? And what it does, it just calls git executable with the command ref parse head, right? So that's the usual command that gives you git hash, right? And look at the syntax of CMake. It's just to run an external command. And this is supposed to be a build tool. Like think about it. This is a build tool that simplifies building projects. And if in build tool that simplifies building project, you run an external command like that, bro, running an external command in a shell script is easier than this. You are worse than shell scripts. Just think about that. You are worse than shell script, but your goal is to simplify building. Like, shell script is easier to use than this shit. Like, what the fuck? Anyways, so I really like how simple syntax of Bex is. Well, yeah, so for those who doesn't know, Bex is essentially the scripting language that we use for our bot, right? So you can take a look at it. So for example, we have a today command, right? So that just prints you what we're currently doing. And look at that, it also tags you. But if you provide some argument in here, it will replace that tag with whatever you put in here. And that is needed in case you want to, for example, add somebody, for example, Arctic, right? So I want to tell to Arctic what we're currently doing today. So I'm going to do that, and the bot will basically tag Arctic. So, and the way we achieve that, it's actually not a hard-coded command, right? So it's written in a simple scripting language. Show cmd today. There we go. This is how it looks like. And it's a very interesting statement, actually. It's a very interesting statement. So you have say, which is a variadic function, and we put as an argument or input author and then string. So essentially what say does, it accepts arbitrary amount of arguments, absolutely arbitrary amount of arguments. And what it does, it just basically concatenates the string representation of these arguments. But before doing that, it evaluates each individual argument in here. It actually evaluates each individual argument. So and in here, you have two built-in variables. Input is whatever you put into the input of the command, and author is whoever run this command, right? And or considers empty strings as sort of false, right? So what it does, it goes through all of its argument and picks the first element that is not falsy or empty string, and that's how it decides whether to display input or author, and then the rest of the thing. And what's interesting is that this language is partially lazy. What that means? That means if you have some sort of a function and you have some sort of an expression of this function, this expression may not be evaluated until it is needed. That's a very interesting. It may not be evaluated, but there's no rules when it may or may not be evaluated. It is up to the function to decide when it's going to be evaluated or not, which creates a very goddamn fucking powerful system. For example, we have a system like a choice. We have a function choice, which essentially picks a random number, random element out of the arguments, right? So what we can do here, right, what we can do here is something like this. Right, so I can say basically pick a random number between these two things and say it, right? So as you can see, pick and say, and as you can see, every time I run it, it actually picks a random one and then says that. So what's interesting is that choice does not evaluate any of its arguments until it's picked. It first picks an argument and only then evaluates that argument. You know what that means? That means you can actually invert say and choice, right? You can do say, say. In a strict language, in a string language, it would say this thing 4 times and then maybe pick some value or whatnot. In this language, none of the says are going to be evaluated until thing is picked, and only then it's going to be evaluated, right? So, and we can actually confirm this entire thing. We can actually confirm that. So as you can see, it doesn't say that 4 times, it only says it 1 time, right? Because the inner thing is not evaluated, right? And yeah, it's kind of cool how much you can achieve with just a simple language and not this abomination. How is abomination? Yeah, so not this abomination, right? So yeah. Anyway, I love simple languages. I really love simple languages. Like they have this emergent complexity in them, right? So, and what the fuck is this shit? This is more like an enforced complexity. Programmers are so lazy, they taught their language to be lazy. Exactly, exactly. We actually have quite a lot of cool commands. For example, we have a d6 command, which does the, dice with 6 sides, right? So, and it looks like this, right? So you can throw a dice and it gives you like the result in dice and stuff like that. And if you try to show like the source code of this command, well, I mean, this is not how to do that. So show cmd. Oh, the source code is so goddamn fucking huge, it doesn't fit into the limitation of Twitch. So I couldn't show you that. So you can check out it on, I think, on Discord, but I can't access Discord because I don't have a VPN turned on right now. So, but it's kind of like, I think D6 is the most cursed command, because it has to work on both Twitch and Discord, and depending on whether it's Twitch or Discord, it has to do different things to look good. Yeah, for example, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lower. Yeah, so it basically, this is a part of this command. So not everything actually fit into Twitch, right? And as you can see, we're actively using choice, right, and stuff like that, and we're picking between different things and whatnot. So this one is also rather interesting, right? Was that so D20, right? So it uses regular expressions to you know, destructurize some things and put them in place and stuff like that. Languages, you know, scripting, simple scripting languages for specific purposes are a really interesting topic, honestly. It's a very interesting topic. But please, don't turn your simple scripting language into this, okay? Please. Right, especially for build tool. If it's a build tool, running external commands should be easy. It should be fucking easy. Anyway, so we got some subs that I didn't acknowledge. Thank you so much, G2 Ball, for Twitch Prime subscription, and Charlie Bacon. Thank you so much for the message. Yo, Zozi, my man. Yo, Charlie Bacon. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Bacon. Sorry, I'm really sorry for the old stinky millennial memes, but I'm just a millennial, so. Anyways. So we need to be able to run external commands. The question is how the fuck you do that. And the command that we have to run externally is ref parse head. Right. It's a very cool command because it literally just gives you the hash. Right. It literally just gives you the hash. Right. And when we want to do that, I suppose maybe we can start accepting command line arguments. So argc, argv. Right. And in here, if you didn't pass any arguments in there. So I kind of want to steal like a shift macro, because shift macro is one of my favorite ways of, you know, parsing command line arguments. So what it does, so define shift, it's supposed to accept the elements, right? So pointer, which is an array, and the size of the array, right? And what it's supposed to do. What it's supposed to do? So first of all, I suppose it's supposed to assert that you have enough elements in here, right? So it has to be greater than 0. So because of that, I probably have to do assert, assert.h. So that's the first thing. And I'm using like a comma operator because I want this entire thing to act like an expression, right? I want it to be an expression. So the second thing we have to do in here is decrease the amount of elements in the sort of like sized array that we're dealing with in here. So after that, I have to kind of take access, and I actually want to just dereference this entire thing, but I also want to advance it forward. So here is the thing. If I do access plus, this is a post increment. This is a post increment. That means this entire expression will return me the previous value, which is the current value of, you know, of the array. And if I remember correctly, the precedence of the operators is that the post increment has the higher precedence than dereference, so you can do shit like this. I think this is how it works. And with this kind of thing, what you can do now, you can do something interesting, right? So while argc is greater than 0, you can then do printf s shift argv argc, right? So, and it will basically slowly pop out the elements from the sized array argv argc and return it to you so you can print it, and it will stop when argc becomes 0. So that's basically the thing you have. So this shift allows you to sort of the element from the left of the array, right? So, but I don't remember, like, I'm not 100% sure about the precedence of these two operators, so we'll have to double check on that. So let's go ahead and do that. So it's going to be Meson Build, Meson Compile rather. There we go. So, and now I can do hello. Can I run, by the way? I can't even run this intention. Neither source directory run nor. Okay, so that would be actually kind of cool if I could just like compile and run it automatically, but apparently I have to do that myself. As you can see, it just printed hello, which is the first argument in the argv, right? So the first argument in argv, according to POSIX and stuff like that, is the path to the executable. So now I can do full bar buzz, and it printed them all, right? And look at that. This is a very simple macro, but look how powerful it is. Like the idea of just popping an element out of the args array is actually super powerful, right? And you can't go over that because we even have an assert for that, right? So you can always just try to do that one more time, and you're gonna get slapped by the by this entire thing. And since it's a macro, you can use that for all sorts of sized array, right? For all sorts of sized array, right? So if I try to do this kind of thing, I recompile it. Yeah, I'm in the wrong place. All right, so this is going to be hello, and as you can see, it failed. Right, so with assert, we actually made this entire macro safe. See? So this is out of bounds access, but it's saved. It catch that at runtime. Why do you need Rust? You can just use assert. But it's assert. Well, yeah, you can kind of disable. Okay, sure. So it's actually kind of disableable. But I mean, you can work a little bit further, right? So, and you can make something like, I don't fucking know. Can I do ternary operator and just like abort? Otherwise, is there empty expression? Can I do shit like that? Is that an empty expression? What is that? Oh, this. Is that like a simple assert? Oh, that's a very interesting simple assert. Okay. How do I build this entire shit? Brovskis. How do you do an empty expression in? Maybe you can do some. Yeah, well, I mean, you can literally just put whatever. You can always just do this, right? So, and that's the empty expression. Yeah, and you don't have a board. Well, you need to do std loop. There we go. That way you can never disable it, right? That way you can never disable. But I mean, assert kind of tells you where exactly that happened. And technically you can also tell where exactly that happened. Sure, you can always do something like that. SD, right, so out of bounds, bruh. And then you can do file, line, right, and yeah, because printf returns you a number, how many characters it printed, so you can consider that expression. Then after that expression, you execute a board. So you can do shit like that, and this thing still stays an expression. This thing still stays an expression. So I can try to rebuild that. I can try to. This is not what I want you to try, Brovsky. Where is my thingy majingy? Hello, foo bar buzz, and it didn't print shit. Why didn't it print shit? I think I know why. Because I forgot to put a new line, so it was not flushed properly. Goddamn buffered output. Goddamn buffered output. You have to not forget to flash. Well, to be fair, since we're doing an error, we can also do std error thingy. Right. So std error. So we're going to do compile, then I'm going to do something like that, and I'm going to even do something like this. It didn't really print thing properly because I have an extra thing in here, right? So this is going to be just that. We're almost there, chat. We're almost there. We almost figured it out. There you go. But I just have to do that from the compilation mode, so this entire thing is parsed. Finally, why is it? I mean, just a second. Finally. Okay, and now I can actually go here. There we go. So out of bounds. Though it actually went in a pretty weird place, so I have to do something like the opposite. Yeah, there we go. So now it says everything correctly. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. So now it is not disableable, but is it worth it? I don't freaking know, right? I don't freaking know if it's worth it or not. So let's actually use assert for now, right? So we're gonna just assert this entire thing. It's not as super safe like in case of Rust, but at least it is something. At least it is something, and I'm not really sure like in which case you want to disable assertions, right? Do people actually disable assertions in production for the reasons of, oh, they're too slow, or like why would you do that? I think the assertions are really useful. Or maybe release mode. Yeah, for release mode, if you're running it on a server, maybe downtime is more important than getting your application in a non-consistent state, right? So maybe it has to work 24/7, right? And because of that, any single assert can actually cause a downtime, and that's lost money. So just being a bit in a consistent state, doesn't matter, right? So because being, downtime costs more. Who knows? Anyway, so while I was developing all this shit, I wanted to have like system of commands. Right, so I want to have a version command that prints the hash, and I have a no command, which is essentially like just print hello, something like that. So essentially the first argument in here is a program name. Program name is going to be shift argv argc, something like that. Okay, so and after that, what we can do, if argc is greater than 0, that means we provided the command, the user has provided command. Okay, so let's do command name shift argv argc, and if command name is version, I think it's equal to 0, we need to print the current version. So let's say something like maybe s, which is going to be the program name, and version s, which is going to be the git hash. So how are we going to be passing the git hash? The usual approach is to pass git hash through the macro, right? So through the define macro outside. So git hash, something like that. And after that, we're going to just like, you know, exit right away. So if it's something else, we probably want to print an error saying that this is an unknown command. So we can do something like fprintf std error unknown command s, and this is going to be command name. There we go, and then we're going to just return 1 in here. We can always print usage, std error is going to be usage, the program name, and optional version, something like this. I think that's how we're going to be going about that. And after that, if no command is provided, we just call hello. As you can see, we have a very basic, simple sub-command system, and look how pleasant it is to parse this entire thing with shift. Right. So I really like this paradigm of parsing command line arguments, of just like popping them and observing. Do we have any more arguments? Okay, if we don't have any more arguments, we do something else. So then we have something, we pop in it again, we're looking at what we just popped. Okay, and then make other decisions based on that. It's a very nice way of parsing command line arguments. I really like it. And I really like the fact that, like, how simple it is to do this kind of thing. And we have an extra expression in here for whatever reason. Can you use switches in here? This is C, Bravsky. Bravsky, this is C. You can't switch keys on strings in here. Bruh, do you even see? Do you even fucking see? Okay, so let's take a look at that stuff. So, and we don't have git hash, so this is argc, so let's make it compilable. So strcmp, all right, so we need to include a string. That's pretty cool. And we don't have git hash. We don't have git hash. So the question is, like, how can I define additional maybe macros to this entire thing? Is there any way for me to know the documentation of certain commands in a Meson language? Okay, I think the time has finally come to look at the documentation. So we have a reference manual. Okay, so reference manual, built-in objects, functions. I'm interested in functions, and they have signatures like in C, but they are not really C, right? So because C doesn't have a str and list. Bro, this has a huge intellectual masturbation potential. Ooh. So this is a straight-up Turing-complete language. All right. So executable. Can I just? Okay, I think I saw it. CD executable. All right. So it creates. This is all the arguments, like a keyword arguments for the executable. So you have a string, the target name. Then you have source, which can be string, file, custom TGT, right? Look at that, custom TGT, custom ADX, or generated list, right? So I suppose TGT is a command or a target, right? So it's a custom target. All right. So do you have defines in here? Can I specify defines? So you have sources, which is not exactly what I want. Rust crate type. Name prefixes, link args, debug, dunit test. So can I add a new define outside, like through the executable in here? That's very interesting question. So we can try to search for -d, and we can't really find anything in here. All right. C args. So we can use C. Okay, this one is interesting. So there is a static C args. Well, I mean, there's no C args at all. So lang. Okay, so let's actually copy paste this entire thing. So, and I suppose I can say something like a C static args, and I can maybe define git hash, which is probably going to be equal to your mom. All right. So I suppose that's how you do that. Cool. Now, if I try to build this entire thing, is it going to build? So what does it say? Double quotes are not. Oh, at that point, you could have just supported them. At that point, you could have just all keyword arguments must be after positional arguments. Okay. Yeah, it has to be. All right. All right. Got unknown keyword statement C static args. Okay, so what is lang then? So, well, I mean C args. Maybe it's just C args, because we do have lang args. All right. Okay. Ooh, umom undeclared, right? So because we defined umom without any quotes, right? So it used it as literally symbol name, right? It literally used it as a symbol name. So what we have to do, we have to probably put quotes in here. So and that's what we can do in here. And that seems to be compiling, right? And then we tried to run it, as you can see. As you can see, we tried to run it, and it says unknown command foo. If I just run hello, this is a hello world, but then I can do version. It says hello version your mom. We found first piece of puzzle. This is the first piece of puzzle. So now we need to somehow run an external command from Meson and embed the hash in here. Right. So can we run an external command? What kind of stuff do we have in here? Include directories, run command. Okay, runs command specified in the positional arguments. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do run command. So you can capture. So if true, any output generated on std will be captured and returned by what? So you have run results. So I suppose what I can do here, maybe I can assign run result to here. So now this is a command, and I presume it's just a string, right? It's going to be just a string. So git ref parse head. Let's try to run this entire thing. So let's confirm that this thing in fact works, right? So, and after that, I want to also say that please capture this entire thing. So this is going to be capture, and this is going to be true, and it's going to return us a thing. And can I print things from within the Meson script, Meson configure thingy? I wonder if there's just print A, B, C, D, G. I don't think so. It will be kind of cool to debug things. So there is a message. Okay. Can I do message? Message. Ooh. Okay, that's cool. So you can just do message, and you can do all sorts of things. I wonder if I can simply do message result afterwards, just to see what's going to happen. All right. I'm gonna try to maybe do Meson compile. All right. Did we get anything? So the bro, why don't you just support double quotes? This is painful. They're not even using double quotes for anything. They don't even have any special meaning, bro. Okay, I would understand if they had some sort of a special meaning that you don't want to quote. Okay, I would understand that, but they don't have any meaning except fucking bug you with a stupid error message. Just support them then. Just fucking support them then. Like, you know exactly what I want to do, yet you... Brovsky. All right, so okay, cool. Not found or not executable. Aha. So that means it does not consider that as a shell command, more as the name of the program to run. So that means the arguments have to be passed somewhere in through the different stuff. Okay, so run command. So here it is, run command. Yeah, but where do I put that environment or something? The command to execute during the, or maybe it just simply does not. You need to use git ref. I didn't notice this part. It's a ... so that means it's a variadic function. Okay, so that explains it. That actually explains it. It is in fact a variadic function. Okay, ref. Okay. Ref parse. Head. All right, so then we do capture true. Let's fucking go. Build. All right. So message value other than string, integer, boolean, dictionaries, and all right. Warning: you should add the boolean check keyword to the run command call. It's currently default to false. Add the boolean check. Check exit true. Okay. See also issue. So we found some sort of an issue. But I'm probably using old Meson, so because this thing is already resolved or something. So they tell me that I have to also check, right? So I also have to enable the check for this kind of thing. All right. So, all right. So we're trying to print something that is not a string, number, or whatnot. But the question is, how the fuck can I like explore what is run result? Let's take a look. So here's the run result, and it is an object. So it has methods and shit like that. Okay. So you can do std out. All right. So std out like this. So I'm going to go here, compile, and we got a hash. We got a motherfucking hash. So the question is now, how can I use that hash in the whole build system, right? So this is a build ninja. Well, I mean, this is not what I want. Meson Build. So what I have to probably do, and I'm gonna just try to assume that. Is that a good idea? What do you guys think? I wonder if there is some sort of like a string interpolation for this kind of stuff. That would have been kind of cool if there was some sort of a string interpolation. All right. So anyways, here is the command we're doing, right? So we do compile and new line. Fuck. Ninja does not support new lines in rules. The content was... How can I strip? Is there some string function, useful string utilities in Meson that would allow me to trim? I wonder. Or does Meson support? I don't know. But look at that. If I have some string in Python, so 1, 2, 3, 4. If I do something like -1, it gives me that. If I do something like that, I wonder if I can strip off the new line myself by doing something like this. Probably not. Why your Python is pink? It's actually purple, and this is because of the latest version of Python. They recently made prompt purple for no reason. String. Oh, this is a good point. So maybe string itself has some interesting methods. I didn't think about that. Right, so we have built-in objects. So let's take a look at the built-in objects. elementary type, so it's probably elementary type string. Do you? Oh my god! So yeah, strip. It has a method strip. Perfect. Thank you so much. Right, so it does in fact has a method strip. This is exactly what we need in here. Just do strip. All right. So now if I do something like this and I try to run it, okay. So it compiled it, and then I can do hello version. We get a version, which is the hash, which is in fact probably a current hash, and they do match. Look at that. So this is a very common thing that you want to do with the build system. Bake a git hash, right, as you build, so you know what version you're running and stuff like that. So, and it was pretty easy compared to CMake. But hold on for a second. So in CMake, it's also rather easy if it was just, you know, running an external command and embedding this thing in here and stuff like that. The main difficulty with CMake was that that motherfucker was just caching this entire stuff. So then when you switch the commits, it doesn't recompile shit. Or in some situations, it always recompile the thing, even though it doesn't need to be recompiled because it wants to, you know, refresh the hash or something like that. So the main difficulty was not to really run an external command and embed this entire thing. So in CMake, I was actually actively fighting with caching system of CMake. Right, so that was the problem. So we need to check how that works in Meson. So we need to check that actually. Alrighty. And we can check that probably by just committing this entire thing. Right, so I'm gonna just do the commit and right, introduce version subcommand with baked git hash, right, with baked git hash. All right, so that created a new hash, right? So that created a new hash, and now I'm gonna try to do maybe Ninja, right? I'm just running Ninja, and or maybe try to Meson compile, and it didn't do any work. And there is a discrepancy between the version and the current commit, even though I asked this entire thing to recompile things. Though, yeah, so I don't really know, because you kind of need to maybe touch upon main.c to then be able to recompile this entire stuff. And as you can see, it is already recompiled. Hello version, right, and take a look at that, and it did in fact cache the output of the command. Right, even after forcing recompilation. And how do you force the compilation with Ninja? Right, so how do you do that? So it's going to be, I forgot how to do that. So force, maybe like there are some tools in here. So I can do Ninja tool clean, right? Right, and then I can do Ninja, it runs it, and this is the hello, and this is the version, and it still uses the wrong hash. Zozin, you should use a build system because it allows you to do incremental builds. In modern build systems, they never weirdly cache anything. It's already solved problem, Zozin. Caching in build system is already solved problem. Why are you using shell? Why are you using shell? Use Meson. It's already solved problem. I'm so goddamn fucking tired of these people. It's insane. It's just like people really tell me like straight to my face that modern build systems like CMake and Meson don't weirdly cache shit. Oh, and if they do, you just misconfigured it. You just misconfigured it. Zozin, you don't understand. You can't just run an external command and embed the result of the external command. The most obvious thing that you want to do. You can't just do that. It's your fault that you didn't actually study how the internals of this build system work and actually fought against its cache and stuff. It's your fault, Zozin. It's your fault. Anyway, so it's not that different from CMake apparently. It's not that different. So the next stream we're building we already have our own building tool, believe it or not. Right, so in my own building tool, I just run external git hash thingy every single fucking time and re-embed it. And it's not even that slow. Right, so essentially, let me see. So I think I even have, yeah, so here it is. Here is a project that I'm using from time to time. So it has a bunch of things in here. I think I'm gonna actually remove all of that stuff. Right, and so I'm gonna fetch the latest thing. So what this project is doesn't really matter, right? So, but it uses Snob, and one of the things it does, it actually embeds, you know, hash into the executable, right? And essentially, I can just do the build, right? So I can just do the build. So it needs to do the first build for SQLite, right? So because it uses SQLite and it's pretty heavy, so it takes like 20 seconds to build SQLite, but then it caches only SQLite, by the way, right? So my build system does cache things, but it only caches selectively, you know, big, heavy operations. If you have small little operations that are very important to get right, it doesn't cache them. It always does them like every single time. And as you can see, it did the caching here, right? If I try to run it one more time, it does that faster. And it runs the external git ref parse command every single time you want to build the executable. It rebuilds the executable every single time, right? It doesn't cache building executable at all, ever, but it caches building SQLite because that's the heavy operation, right? So that's how my build system works. And because of that, it never really caches the hash. It never really caches hash because it computes it every single fucking time very much reliably. Very much reliably. So that's how I prefer working. So to be fair, for incremental builds, I don't think the system has to cache literally everything, right? It has to be very much selective. Like I have a third-party dependency that I never change, and it takes 20 seconds to build. I'm 100% sure that I want to cache that thing, but the rest of the stuff is super fast, and I don't want that to be cached, so I say, okay, that stuff is not cached. And I think it's a good approach, right? I don't know. It has to be selective. It has to be up to the programmer because the programmer knows better what is slow, what is not slow, and like you have a lot of control. So anyway, yeah. So I wonder how you can sort of like force it to, I don't know, rebuild it every time. It's just like, I don't know. I'm already streaming for 1.5 hours. I think I want to make a small break. Maybe I want to make a cup of tea, and then we're gonna see what we can do with all of that stuff. Right? Sounds good. Sounds Gucci. Sounds Etamaguchi. Let's go. Right. On the break, people suggested to use this function. So apparently, you know, baking the hash is such an unsolved computer science problem in Meson that they just created a hack for you. Right. So let's see how you do that. So this command detects the revision control commits information at build time. You're supposed to supply your own command, interestingly. The command to execute C custom target for details. Huh. So there's a fallback. Okay, so if you couldn't find the executable thingy, there's a fallback. Yeah, this one is interesting. So the output, I should probably, this is not convenient to read, bro. Who writes documentation like that? Well, here is the names, and now to read what this name means, I have to scroll to the right. Ergonomics are insane. Just, okay. Oh, there's an arguments table. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, cool. So the command to execute C targets for details on this parameter is optional. If it is absent, Meson will try its best. Okay, this is really interesting to find a suitable default command. Does it return? Okay, so it returns a custom target. All right. So, and I suppose in a custom target, what do we have in there? So full path, to list, and so on and so forth. So in all of them, I suppose optional, the only thing that is required is input, and input is a file to modify. Oh, you put the, it puts a version into a file. Okay, and another one required is output file to write the result to. Oh, it uses that goddamn template paradigm where you have the template thingy and oh my god, bro. Why do you need to overcomplicate such a simple task of running an external command, grabbing the output of an external command, and just shoving it into the command line arguments of the compilation thing? It's just like, why are you doing it? Well, I mean, okay, so maybe the thing is that in a big project, you want to put that into a file anyway. Right, so because you have a lot of like, you know, translation units and stuff like that, but that's annoying, bruv. Especially if you're starting up with this very simple project, you don't want to ramp up complexity too quickly, in all honesty, right? So when I'm working in a project, I don't like to quickly ramp up complexity. I like to edit like incrementally and slowly. And this thing doesn't allow you to do that. But I mean, it's not like I'm super complaining. It's just like, and it's not like I'm afraid to work with complexity. I've worked with insane complexity, but it's like I like to keep it manageable and not blow it up too early. I mean, you can raw dog bash scripts until you need the build system. Exactly, and this is exactly what I would do, but that's not the topic of today's stream. Have you read the title of the stream, my friend? Read the title of today's stream. Read the title. Do you see? We're learning Meson build system, not learning bash scripts. We already know bash scripts. We already know how to use them. We are learning specifically Meson. Because of that, we're using Meson. Because that's part of the education process. That's how we learn things. Even if you don't like something, right, so you still learn it. Okay. What do we need to do? Let's try to run this shit. And so it also gives you a target, and I don't fucking know what is that supposed to mean. So let's see. So no, I'm saying it's not. Why do you care about fairness? Wait. It's not fair. Look, bro. This is a build. Are you emotionally attached to a goddamn fucking build tool? Ew. Are you really emotionally attached to a goddamn... But seriously, why do you care? It's just a build tool. Got you. Emotionally attached to a build tool. It's just a build tool, bro. It's just a build tool. Meson Dev. Oh, it's a oh fuck. Oh shit. Oh fuck. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just joking. Don't take me too seriously. So, anyways. Let's see how we can do all of that. Can I comment out things? That's a very interesting question. I never tried that, by the way. So let's give it a try. Meson setup. So what does it say? Directory already configured. Well, I mean, this is not what I want. I want you to do compile. All right. So unknown variable result. So that means the comments work exactly as that. I wonder what other constructions can you have in Meson? That's a very interesting question. For instance, can I have something like if true, right? And since it's based on Python, can I just like do Python ifs in here? That would be interesting, honestly. That would be interesting. So what does it say? Expected end of line got colon. You can't do that. Okay. So, but I mean, probably maybe there is something like conditions, but I don't care about it right now. I just want you to quickly check if there's anything, right? So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay. So VCS tag, right? So we have a VCS tag, and let's go ahead. So we're supposed to, let's just run it as it is. I'm gonna comment out this thing. Just want to see what the build system is going to tell us. Right. Is missing required keyword argument input. Okay. So it's from Python mode. I'm literally using Python mode. I wonder if there's a Meson mode though. So I'm gonna just try to install some third-party packages for Emacs. So Emacs has a package manager, by the way. So Meson, right? And let's actually go here. All right. So we have a Meson mode. Ooh. And it actually made all of these functions yellow. Ooh, does it highlight correct? Yo, I can actually check if, you know, some function exists by like seeing that it's highlighted or not. This is very fucking convenient. Right, so does it? It does have ifs. It does have ifs. Okay, so if I take a look at the Meson mode, let's take a look at the Meson mode. Alpa Meson. So there should be something like, aha, found you. Aha, it uses this goddamn and if scheiße. Aha, I already kind of, you know, guess the syntax of this entire stuff. So I still want to try that. I'm sorry, chat. I'm really sorry, chat. So that means you can do something like if true and then and if. It's almost like CMake, but without requiring you to put parentheses. That's already a progress for a build system to not require to add like, who the fuck thought this is a good idea? Like, who the fuck thought that this goddamn syntax of CMake is a good idea? You know, my suspicion about the, you know, CMake requiring you to do this kind of shit. So let's actually open third-party C3 hash. Yeah, this one. My suspicion is that they fired the guy who was responsible for updating the parser, and they literally couldn't update the parser. So they just used the syntax of calling functions to indicate the end of the E. I unironically can see that, but because, like, why? Bro, just update the parser. Bro, just update the parser. I have a suspicion that and if is it is a function. It's probably a function. So it's a lost technology now. They just couldn't update the parser, bro. Like, we don't know how to do that. It's a mess. Like, just like, and we fired the guy who did that. Like, since then, the syntax of CMake hasn't changed. They circumvent the inability to change syntax through changes to semantics. So that's how they do that. Only one guy in the entire world knew about this shit. Exactly. Anyway, so I just want to see if it compiles, if it works. Yeah, boy, it worked. It actually worked. I mean, the C program didn't compile, but this thing worked. And the only thing it took me is to know that there is a keyword and if, and I inferred the rest of the syntax. I confabulated the rest of the syntax, and it was actually true. We can't build it anymore. We don't know how. Yes. All right. So here's the input, and for the input, they say that you have to supply the version.c in. Okay, so let's actually do that. The mode is actually super helpful, right? Because it doesn't highlight double quotes. Okay, so investing into that mode was worth it. It was worth it. So version c.in. So this is what I'm specifying, and I suppose I have to also specify the output, which is going to be version.c. Right, and then I will have to include version.c and stuff like that. Make build system Python, build system Python semi-based on their language on it, still adds the end. Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, the syntax of Python is very painful to parse, right? So it's kind of like the tokenizer and the parser have to be kind of interleaved with each other, because you need to keep track of the indentations and stuff like that. So they decided just simply not to do that, right? So, which is understandable, because I don't want to do that either. By the way, maybe one of the things I have to do on the stream is to try to implement the Python style parser, right? Try to parse like the indentation style thing. Oh, Oh, okay. Oh, token. Okay, I see. So tokenizer in Python just emits indent and unindent tokens. Man, that makes me want to try to write such parser. Well, yeah, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but now I can see how to do that. Yo, I need to try to do that. So that sounds like a cool topic for a stream. Just like implement this kind of parser, right? So and see how difficult or easy it is to do. Right. Anyways, now let's try to compile this entire thing and follow the compilation arrows. Follow the compilation arrows. All right. So this thing does not exist. Understandable. So let's touch version C. Just slightly touch this file to create it. Okay, the file has been created. Here's the file. Let's now try to compile it. Okay, so everything compiled successfully. Does it mention anything about version C? Okay, it generated version.c with a custom command. That's pretty cool. And there's nothing in there, which probably means that I have to maybe define some git hash or something. Like, what exactly does it expect from version.c? That's a very interesting question. So file to modify, for example, version C, and no further links anywhere. No explanation what exactly they expect me to put in there. All right. So is it standardized somehow? Is the .in thingy standardized so like it assumes that everybody knows what you have to put in there? Or like, I don't really know. Am I missing anything? Like, how do I even proceed from here? Replace string argument. Replace string. What? So Meson will. Okay, so they okay. So they explain it in here. All right. Meson will read the content of input, substitute replace string with detected version number, and then write the okay. So I think I was just dumb, right? So blind. Yeah. Define git hash and replace string. So is that how we do that? I suppose that's how we do that. So oh, maybe it's an argument. Replace string in the input file to substitute with aha. So and it has a default VCS tag. All right. So I can put something like VCS tag. All right. So that makes fucking sense, mate. Wrong place. Okay. So if I take a look at the version.c, I wonder. What is this chode over hash? It's a chode hash. Why is it so short? They don't... That's offensive. So maybe there is a way to say a full hash or something. I just don't fucking know, Brovsky. Install tag, some tag. Well, and another thing that we forgot to do in here, obviously, we forgot to actually, you know, put this kind of stuff in here. Understandable. Perfectly understandable. Right, so, and if I take a look at the versione, well, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Versione. Yeah. I just like, I don't like that it's so short. So it's only confirmed for size queen. Yeah, I want a size queen hash, please. Dirty flag is a choice. Yeah. All right. So, fuck, shit, damn. Right. Let's make this entire thing compile. So I suppose what we want to do in here after that is probably include version C, which I'm not even sure if it's a good idea, right? Because you usually include H, so it kind of feels out of place. But I mean, this is what they suggested to call it anyway in the documentation. So I'm including version C. So blame Meson developers, not me. So, and obviously it's not going to compile because it will... Oh, it actually updated the include folders and they added build into the include folders. I didn't even have to do anything. You can use version.h. I know, but the Meson developers said use version.c. Blame Meson developer. blame Meson developers. I'm sorry. They said in documentation. I'm just following documentation. So just following documentation. I don't know what you're talking about. All right, so here's hello. Right, so we can do versione. I don't like this chode. It's a hash chode. Disgusting. So let's actually read documentation. So the command execute custom target for details on how this command must be specified. This is optional. It is absent. Meson will try its best. So in install mode, they didn't tell you how to do that. They just like they just give you and that's it. Just shut up. Just use custom command. This is what I'm thinking about. I think we'll have to use a custom command because I want a big, chunky, juicy hash. Just, you know, just like you see that. Oh my god, this is a hash. Nothing. This is a hash. All right. So let's see what we can do in here. We can actually reuse the same command in here, essentially. Essentially the same command. It did its best. Yeah, it was not enough. I'm sorry, that was not enough. We do not accept such short hashes in here. So I'm gonna literally just like pass this thing in here, hoping that maybe it will do the right thing. Maybe, but I don't know. All right, so let's do Meson compile. Ooh, 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 ooh. Now we are talking about that's a hash. That's a hash. Hash. All right. So that's very cool. So and now hello versione. That's a hash. So now if I commit whatever we have in here, so we can actually remove this entire stuff. We can remove that stuff as well. And do a committee, and maybe even potentially a pushy. So use VCS tag for baking git hash. All right. So if we take a look at the current version, current version, it's that. So I'm gonna save it. So after I did a commit, that modified the current hash. As you can see, that modified the current hash. That's the current hash. Cool. So now if I try to rebuild this entire thing, if I try to rebuild it and then try to run the, okay, it uses the latest hash. Perfect. All right. So with this hack, we can actually reliably take the VCS tag, which is pretty cool. I really like that. Really like that. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I kind of like this build system. So if I have to choose between Meson and CMake, I would definitely pick Meson, honestly. To be fair, I want to kind of like use it in a real production project, right? I can see why people like Meson better than CMake. I can see that. But I mean, it makes sense only if you are already within that framework of building tools, right? So if you have an opportunity to not go into this framework of build tool generators upon generators, and you can maintain the build to be just a simple shell script, I would prefer a simple shell script. But sometimes it's not possible because you're working with big legacy projects that do complicated things, and you don't have time to even simplify the whole process, right? So as soon as you get into CMake, get into Meson, you kind of can't get out of them, right? So you become sort of like a hostage of this build, right? So ideally, you don't want to get yourself into that situation ever, but if you got into that situation and you have to choose between CMake and Meson, Meson is actually pretty cool, right? I like their built-in language, right? Which is kind of like, oh, look at that. So you can have compile time sort of parameters, right? So you can check compiling for OSX, right? So if that, you can branch upon that and add different executables. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So how do you guys like it? Is it cool build tool? So the reason why I'm learning it, by the way, right, is that because I'm planning to also do, dives in projects, in C++ projects that use Meson. Right, so, and I don't want to jump into them without knowing at least a little bit of a Meson, right? So I thought it's a good opportunity to do another topic, just learn Meson, and then we can look at some other projects that use Meson, so we can at least build them and understand them and stuff like that. It looks a bit better than CMake. Yeah, I do agree with that. So what is that? So they do have a plus when dirty as the default. But I mean, if it's dirty specifically, so VCS data dirty plus. So git describe, that's a very interesting function. So let me see, man git describe, dirty. So what is dirty? Describe the state of the working tree. When the working tree matches head, the output is the same as git describe head. Okay, I don't know what is a git describe head. Git describe head. So I'm looking at the wrong thing. No names found, describe anything. So when I do git describe, that's really weird, even though I said. Okay, so the output is the same as git describe head. If the working tree has local modifications, dirty is applied to it, and they don't describe what is dirty, right? So you assume to know what it is. All right, so are you telling me that if my state is not dirty, it is going to literally just give me the full hash? But it's kind of difficult to check, because if I just modify it, to not have this built-in command, the state is going to become dirty. Yeah, I know that dirty is when uncommitted. So it will be dirty. Look at that. So if I just do it like that, let's maybe do it like this. So testing it will require committing it, right? So let's do compile, then version, and yeah. All right. So let's do commit then. Committing changes to check how VCS tag works. All right. So now it is not dirty anymore. It is not dirty anymore. I compile it one more time, looking at version.c, and it's still a chode, but it's a clean chode, right? So my complaint was not that it has plus in the chode. My complaint was about the size of the hash. I wanted a full hash, right? You know what I mean? Right. So that was the problem. And it doesn't really solve that problem specifically. So it's too small. No. Though I like the idea of marking the dirty commit, because this is something that I was thinking about actually when I was implementing the baking hash into my project. It's just like, what if there's some modifications, right? So what if the state is dirty? How do I indicate that? And I never kind of got back to the hashlet. Thank you so much. Yeah, I never got back to that. So I think it's a good idea. I think I should use the same strategy. So damn, I actually learned so many new things while looking into Meson, right? So I learned about like marking dirty state with something, which is kind of cool. And I also learned about git ignoring the entire folder from within by doing git ignore and starring here. That's a very cool idea. So yeah, this is one of the reasons why I like to dive into someone else's projects, is because I can find some new ideas that I can use for myself. So that's kind of cool. So I do not regret looking into Meson, even though I kind of don't like the ideology of Meson, right? So, but it doesn't mean I should not try to look into that and evaluate these things from the software engineering point of view. That's great. Yeah, it is great. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So I guess that's it for today. So I guess that's everything I want you to know about Meson, right? So because anything else, I can just continue reading and learning new functions and stuff like that. But overall, I kind of understand what Meson stands for and how it works and stuff like that. So I get the gist of the build tool. The rest of the stuff is just details that I can always look up in the reference. So thanks everyone who's watching me right now. I hope this stream was educational. Have a good one, and I see you all on the next recreation programming session with Mr. Zozin, where we're going to look into some projects that use Meson, right? So yeah, Love you. Mwah.